Why is Israel so important to America?
What evidence do you have that the Bible is true?
Well, we have archaeological.
Right. Where is that archaeological evidence found?
In Israel.
Right. Thank you. So in the places controlled by Muslims, are we able to access that archaeological evidence?
No.
No. So therefore, as it's controlled by Jews, we Christians have actually gotten the better end of the deal. So you're asking the question, why should we support Israel? We want the Bible to be proven true. The archaeological evidence is found in Israel. The places where the Muslims can control it completely, like Bethlehem, we are not able to visit those holy sites. I have a theological belief, but I also have a belief that protecting the historical integrity of the Bible is good for all of humanity. And under its current government, we're allowed to access those holy sites. I'm able to go to see where Jesus walked on the water. I'm able to go and see where Jesus rose from the dead. I'm able to see where Jesus was betrayed by Judas Iscariot. I'm able to see where Jesus preached the Mount of the Beatitudes. And I think that's worth defending. And I'm afraid that if it was under Muslim control, there is no such guarantees always that Western Christians are gained access to those holy sites.
Muslim family has the keys to Christianity's holiest church. The Holy Church of Sepulchre in Jerusalem is where Christians believe Jesus, Prophet Isa, alayhi salam, was buried.
Now, this may be Christianity's most important church, but the guy who's got the key is Muslim. Adid, hi. This is the key to this church?
This is the holy key of the holy church.
How come you have it and your family have it?
They gave our family to be the custodian of the Holy Sepulchre Church, and it's going from father to son.
But why a Muslim family? This tradition dates from when Salahuddin al-Ayyubi conquered Jerusalem in 1187. As the church is made up of differing Armenian, Greek, and Roman Orthodox denominations, who don't always agree, so a Muslim family helps keep the peace, subhanallah.
Claim Charlie Kirk bahwa jika Islam menguasai tanah Palestina, umat Kristen akan kesulitan berkunjung ke Yerusalem. Itu tidak mendasar sama sekali. Opini seperti itu hanya opini sesat yang dia lontarkan ke rakyat Amerika, supaya rakyat Amerika tetap setia mendukung Israel.
Charlie Kirk, though, one thing that I want to focus on is his claim that he wants the West to win, he wants the holy sites protected, he feels this connection to Israel, he says.
I don't want the Islamo-fascist barbarians to storm the gates of Jerusalem. I want the holy sites protected. Like, I feel the connection to Israel.
So when he says, I want the holy sites protected, this is actually a giant slap in the face to the Muslims in the Middle East. And let me tell you why. The implication is that the holy sites are being protected by who? Right? He's implying they're being protected by Jews in Israel. That's why he wants Israel to win. That's why he says he wants the West to win, because he's implying that because Jews are in Israel, the holy sites, the Christian holy sites are being protected. But that's actually, it couldn't be further from the truth. That is not the case at all. And in fact, you're spitting on the fact that Muslims have been protecting the holy Christian sites. Muslims have been protecting Christian sites for hundreds of years. And it hasn't been the Jews that have been protecting those sites. In fact, they have nothing to do with any of the sites at all. It's been Muslims who've been helping Christians protect those sites. One notable, the single most holy site in Christianity is the Church of Holy Sepulchre. The Church of Holy Sepulchre is the most sacred place in Christianity. This is thought to be identified as the place both of the crucifixion of Jesus Christ and the tomb of Jesus is on this site where this church was built. So this church was built where they believed Jesus was crucified and then buried, essentially. And the church has, this Church of Holy Sepulchre has long been a pilgrimage for Christians worldwide. They come and make their pilgrimage to this church. It has been considered the most sacred, holy place in Christianity. And guess who has protected this church for hundreds of years? The keys to this church have been in the hands of two Muslim families for hundreds and hundreds of years. It has been Muslims who've protected this site, mainly because Christians kept fighting over it. There are all these different Christian factions. They couldn't agree who was going to control the church. And so a Muslim king said, I got an idea. You guys cannot stop fighting over this. You're going to end up destroying it because you guys keep fighting over it. So we're just going to keep it for you. And we'll hold the keys. We're going to give the keys to these two Muslim families. They will have a calendar. You guys have to share the church. You know, who gets this week and who gets the next week and who gets this time and that time. And these Muslim families are going to let you in, and they're going to ensure that there's peace so that this church doesn't end up getting destroyed. Now, why would the Muslim king do that? Because actually in Islam, Jesus is an important figure. In Judaism, Jesus is not. There's like no significance to Jesus whatsoever in Judaism. They actually believe that he was just a heretic who was preaching nonsense. And Muslims, on the other hand, do believe that Jesus is the Messiah. They don't believe he's the Christ. They believe he's the Messiah. There's a difference there. They do believe that he is going to be ushering in, I might get this a little wrong, but from what I understand, they believe that he will be around for the last days, the final battle, that he'll be there to usher in kind of the new era. But they do have a prominent place in their religion for Jesus. They also have a very prominent place in their religion for Mother Mary. And so they also have an invested interest in keeping Christian sites that are sacred to Christians. They also have an invested interest in keeping those sites. So there's a claim that if it weren't for the Jews, there'd be no Christian sites anywhere in the Middle East. They'd all be destroyed by the heathen Muslims that just want to get rid of everything, that have disdain for Christianity. And there would be nothing if it weren't for the Jews. And that's just not true. First of all, there are Christian sites all over the Middle East, but Christians have been able to maintain those Christian sites throughout the Middle East. How is that possible? How is it that there are Christians all throughout the Middle East? I don't know. You tell me. I mean, if you're going to believe the nonsense that the Muslims have been massacring Christians or don't allow there to be Christians, how is it possible that all of these Christian sites throughout the Middle East are actually maintained by Christians? Where are these miraculous Christians coming from? Because they've been there, they've always been there, and they're still allowed to be there, and they're still allowed to worship, and they're still allowed to have their sacred holy sites. So the vast majority of holy sites throughout the Middle East are maintained by Christians. However, Muslims do have primary custodianship over Christian holy sites, but Jews, on the other hand, in looking at the research, there are no major Christian holy sites administered or cared for by Jewish religious authorities at all. None. The Israeli government provides some infrastructure, some security support as the overall management, but that's not unique to Israel. A lot of the countries have the same sort of support in place and security in place for the Christian sites, including Iran, including Iraq, all over Egypt, all over the Middle East. That same kind of sort of government infrastructure is there, but Muslims do actually maintain and help maintain some of the Christian sites. Unlike the Jews, they don't do any of it. So Christians and Muslims are actually the ones maintaining these sites. So when Charlie Kirk says, I want these holy sites to continue on, who are you talking about? Because it's the Muslims that have been helping, not the Jews. So you got to get that fact straight when you're going to be saying something like that. You should at least know who you're insulting. I mean, you're insulting an entire group of people who've actually been helping maintain these sites.
All right, Kylie, thank you. Well, many people across the country continue grieving the loss of conservative activist Charlie Kirk. Kirk was killed while speaking at Utah Valley University on Wednesday. 22-year-old Tyler Robinson was arrested more than 24 hours later. Turning Point USA has announced Kirk's funeral will be held at Arizona's State Farm Stadium next Sunday, the 21st. Fox's William Lajunes reports from Phoenix.
Vigils held around the country for conservative activist Charlie Kirk, days after his fatal shooting in Utah. In Phoenix, a memorial continues to grow outside Turning Point USA. Kirk co-founded the political nonprofit to rally young conservative voters, and Friday night his wife spoke for the first time, vowing to continue his legacy.
The movement my husband built will not die. It won't.
Di luar Amerika, Charlie Kirk lebih banyak diingat karena retorika Islamofobia dan pembelaannya yang keras terhadap Israel. Ia bahkan hadir di pembukaan Kedutaan Besar AS di Yerusalem pada 2018, menyebut pengalaman itu membuka mata dan berjanji organisasinya akan selalu berdiri bersama Israel. Ia berulang kali membela aksi militer Israel, termasuk serangan brutal terhadap Gaza setelah pecah perang pada 2023. Kirk mengatakan, Israel berhak merespons dengan kekuatan yang menghancurkan. Ia juga kerap menyangkal tuduhan bahwa Israel sengaja menargetkan warga sipil atau menyebabkan kelaparan di Gaza, meski bukti-bukti lapangan menunjukkan sebaliknya.